There is a moment that arrives quietly, usually without announcement. You notice it first in small ways. Perhaps you get out of bed one morning and feel a stiffness that was not there a year ago. Perhaps you push yourself physically and realize the next day that recovery takes longer than it once did. Perhaps a word does not come to mind as quickly as it should, and you wonder briefly if this is the beginning of something more concerning. These moments are easy to dismiss individually, but they accumulate. And over time, they create a quiet question in the back of your mind. Is this simply what aging feels like? Most people accept this question as rhetorical. They assume the answer is yes. That decline is inevitable, that the body and mind will gradually fade. But this assumption contains a subtle error. The sensations we attribute to aging are not always aging itself. They are often something else entirely. They are the body's response to conditions that can be understood, and in many cases, influenced. The mistake is not in noticing these changes. The mistake is in believing they are beyond your reach. What if the stiffness, the slower recovery, the occasional mental fog are not fixed destinations on a timeline? What if they are signals, messages from the body about what it needs and what it has been receiving? This shift in perspective changes everything. It moves you from a passive observer of decline to an active participant in a process. And that process, once understood, reveals that many of the changes we call aging are actually something we can shape. You are listening to the Longevity Library, where we archive the wisdom of healthy aging. The long view, understanding how we age and what shapes the journey. There comes a point in life when the future begins to look different than it once did. Not in a troubling way, but in a way that invites deeper reflection. The questions shift from what we might achieve to how we might sustain what matters most. We begin to notice that some people seem to move through their later years with remarkable ease while others struggle. And we start to wonder what makes the difference. This wondering is not merely curiosity. It is the beginning of wisdom about aging itself. For most of human history, the factors that shaped how people aged remained largely invisible. People observed that some lived long and remained vigorous while others declined early. But the reasons were mysterious. Today, researchers have assembled a much clearer picture of what influences the aging process. Not through studying disease, but through studying those who age well. What emerges from this body of work is not a list of rules or a prescription for eternal youth. It is something more valuable, a coherent understanding of how the body responds to the conditions we create for it. The way we move, rest, eat, connect with others, and navigate stress all send signals to our cells that shape how they function over time. These signals accumulate, they compound, and they eventually express themselves as what we call aging. The goal of understanding these signals is not to stop the clock. Time moves forward for everyone. The goal is to ensure that the years we accumulate are years of capacity rather than limitation. Years of engagement rather than withdrawal. Years of feeling like ourselves rather than feeling diminished by time. The body's response to its environment. To understand aging, it helps to understand that the human body is not a machine that simply wears out with use. It is a living system that constantly adapts to the demands placed upon it. When you lift something heavy, your muscles respond by becoming stronger. When you walk regularly, your cardiovascular system becomes more efficient. When you sleep deeply, your brain clears metabolic waste and consolidates memories. When you rest after exertion, your tissues repair and regenerate. This capacity for adaptation does not diminish entirely with age, though it does slow. The body remains responsive to signals. It continues to adjust its function based on what it experiences. The key insight from decades of research is that the quality of those experiences shapes the trajectory of aging more than many people realize. Consider what happens when someone remains physically active throughout life. Their heart maintains its efficiency because it is regularly challenged. Their muscles retain more of their mass because they are regularly used. Their bones maintain greater density because weight-bearing activity stimulates bone remodeling. Their joints retain more of their flexibility because they move through full ranges of motion. Now consider the opposite pattern. When someone becomes sedentary, the body receives clear signals that it no longer needs to maintain certain capacities. Muscle mass declines because maintaining it requires energy and the body allocates resources efficiently. Bone density decreases because the stimulus for remodeling is absent. Cardiovascular efficiency drops because the heart is not challenged to pump more blood. Flexibility diminishes because tissues are not stretched. Neither of these trajectories is determined by age alone. They are determined by the accumulation of signals over time. A person who remains active at 70 will have a very different physiological profile than a sedentary person of the same age. Not because of anything inherent in their genetics, but because their bodies have adapted to different conditions. This principle extends beyond movement. The foods you eat signal to your cells whether resources are abundant or scarce. The quality of your sleep signals whether it is safe to devote energy to repair processes. Your social connections signal whether you are part of a supportive group or isolated from others. Your stress levels signal whether the environment is safe or threatening. Each of these signals influences how your body allocates energy. When resources are limited, the body prioritizes immediate survival over long-term maintenance. When resources are abundant and the environment feels safe, the body can invest more in repair, regeneration, and building reserves for the future. The cumulative effect of these allocations over decades shapes how you age. The architecture of rest. Among all the signals the body receives, none is more powerful than the signal provided by sleep. Sleep is not merely a period of inactivity. It is an active state during which essential maintenance occurs. The body performs tasks during sleep that it cannot perform while you are awake and engage with the world. During deep sleep, the brain activates a system that flushes out metabolic waste products that accumulate during waking hours. This includes proteins that, when allowed to build up, interfere with communication between neurons. The discovery of this system, sometimes called the glymphatic system, revealed that sleep serves a cleaning function essential for long-term brain health. Also during sleep, the body repairs damaged tissues, synthesizes proteins, and releases growth hormone that supports cellular regeneration. The immune system becomes more active, identifying and addressing potential threats. Memories are consolidated, moving from temporary storage to more permanent neural networks. The cardiovascular system slows, reducing wear and tear on blood vessels and the heart. The timing of sleep matters as much as its duration. The human body operates on an internal clock that regulates the timing of physiological processes. This circadian rhythm influences when you feel alert, when you feel sleepy, when your digestion is most active, and when your body temperature rises and falls. When you go to sleep and wake at consistent times, you reinforce this internal clock, making it easier to fall asleep and wake naturally. When sleep timing varies significantly from day to day, the internal clock becomes disrupted. You might still get 7 hours of sleep, but if those hours occur at different times, the quality of sleep suffers. The architecture of sleep shifts, with less time spent in the deepest, most restorative stages. The cleaning functions of sleep become less efficient. The repair processes are truncated. For adults in midlife and beyond, sleep naturally changes. Deep sleep decreases somewhat. You may wake more frequently during the night. You may find it harder to fall asleep or wake earlier than desired. These changes are normal, but they make consistency even more important. When sleep is already lighter, Maintaining regular timing helps maximize the restorative value of the hours you do sleep. The environment in which you sleep also matters. Darkness signals to the brain that it is time for sleep. Light, particularly the blue light emitted by screens, signals wakefulness and suppresses melatonin production. Cooler temperatures support the natural drop in core body temperature that facilitates sleep onset. Quiet reduces the likelihood of awakening during vulnerable sleep stages. Many people in their 50s and beyond have accumulated habits around sleep that no longer serve them. Perhaps they stay up later on weekends, sleeping to catch up, or fall asleep with the television on. These habits may have been harmless at younger ages, but as sleep architecture changes, they can have greater impact. Small adjustments to sleep timing and environment often produce noticeable improvements in how rested people feel. The body in motion. Movement is the signal that tells the body to maintain its capabilities. Every system in the body responds to the demands of physical activity. When you move regularly, you are essentially reminding your body that it needs to remain capable of moving. The cardiovascular system responds to movement by becoming more efficient. The heart, a muscle itself, strengthens with regular challenge. Blood vessels maintain their flexibility. Capillaries proliferate, improving the delivery of oxygen and nutrients to tissues. The blood becomes less prone to clotting. Resting heart rate drops, indicating that the heart pumps more blood with each beat and therefore needs fewer beats. The muscular system responds to movement by maintaining mass and function. Muscles are metabolically active tissue. They consume energy even at rest. When you challenge muscles through resistance or endurance activity, you signal that this tissue is needed. The body responds by maintaining or increasing muscle protein synthesis. When you are sedentary, the opposite occurs. Muscle mass declines because maintaining it requires energy that the body would rather use elsewhere. This loss of muscle mass with inactivity has consequences beyond strength. Muscle tissue plays a role in glucose regulation. It acts as a reservoir for amino acids that the body can draw upon during illness or injury. It supports joint stability and balance. It contributes to metabolic rate, meaning that people with more muscle mass burn more calories at rest. The skeletal system also responds to movement. Bone is living tissue that constantly remodels itself. When you apply force through weight-bearing activity, you signal that bone density needs to be maintained. The cells responsible for building bone become more active. When you are sedentary, the opposite occurs. Bone resorption outpaces bone formation, and density gradually declines. The nervous system benefits from movement as well. Physical activity increases blood flow to the brain, delivering oxygen and nutrients. It stimulates the release of factors that support the survival and growth of neurons. It promotes the formation of new connections between brain cells. Activities that require coordination and learning, such as dance or racket sports, provide additional cognitive stimulation beyond general movement. For people in later life, the type of movement matters less than the consistency. Walking provides substantial benefits when done regularly. It is accessible, requires no special equipment, and can be adapted to different fitness levels. The key is volume. People who accumulate more steps throughout the day tend to maintain better cardiovascular health, metabolic function, and mobility than those who are sedentary for long periods and then exercise intensely for short bursts. The concept of movement as a signal helps explain why brief, intense exercise cannot fully compensate for hours of sitting. When you sit for long periods, your body receives a prolonged signal that movement is not needed. Muscles remain inactive. Blood flow slows. Metabolic processes shift towards storage rather than utilization. Even if you exercise for 30 minutes later, the signal from hours of sitting still registers. Breaking up sedentary time with brief periods of movement changes this signal. Standing, walking briefly, stretching. These small movements tell the body that it remains in a state where movement is expected. The cumulative effect of these interruptions throughout the day may be as important as the periods of dedicated exercise. The balance between exertion and recovery. There is a natural rhythm to how the body operates. Periods of exertion are followed by periods of recovery. During exertion, you deplete resources and create micro-damage in tissues. During recovery, you restore resources and repair damage. This cycle, repeated over time, leads to adaptation. You become capable of handling greater exertion because your body has rebuilt itself stronger than before. This rhythm operates at multiple scales. Within a single workout, you push and then rest between efforts. Across a day, you are active and then you sleep. Across a week, you have harder days and easier days. Across a season, you have periods of higher and lower demand. The pattern matters because recovery is when the adaptation actually occurs. The exertion merely creates the stimulus. As people age, the recovery side of this equation becomes more important. The body still responds to exertion, but it may require more time to complete the repair processes. The signals that initiate muscle protein synthesis may be somewhat blunted. The inflammatory response to micro-damage may be slightly prolonged. Sleep, which is when much recovery occurs, may be less deep. This does not mean that older adults should avoid exertion. It means they should be more intentional about recovery. After a period of intense physical demand, the body needs adequate time and resources to rebuild. This might mean taking an extra rest day between challenging workouts. It might mean paying closer attention to sleep quality after heavy exertion. It might mean incorporating specific recovery practices that support the body's natural processes. Cold exposure is one practice that some people find helpful. When you apply cold to the body, blood vessels constrict, reducing blood flow to the area. When you remove the cold, vessels dilate, and blood flow increases. This contrast effect may help clear metabolic waste products from tissues and reduce excessive inflammation. Cold showers, ice baths, or localized cold application all provide this stimulus. Compression is another approach. Pneumatic compression devices sequentially squeeze the limbs, promoting the return of fluid from the extremities toward the core. This supports the lymphatic system, which clears waste products from tissues. Even simple compression garments may provide some benefit by creating mild pressure that supports circulation. Gentle movement during recovery also helps. Walking, stretching, or moving through easy ranges of motion maintains blood flow without creating additional stress. This is sometimes called active recovery, and it contrasts with passive recovery where you remain completely still. Both have their place, but active recovery often feels better and may speed the return to readiness. The key insight is that recovery is not optional. It is not something you do when you have time. It is an essential part of the adaptation process. When you skip recovery, you do not simply fail to improve. You accumulate stress that eventually undermines function. The body has limits on how much strain it can absorb before it begins to break down. The messages food carries. Food does more than provide calories and nutrients. It carries information. The molecules in food interact with your cells in ways that shape how they function. Some foods signal abundance and safety. Others signal scarcity or stress. Some support the repair processes. Others create inflammation that requires repair. This informational view of nutrition differs from the simple model of eating for fuel. It acknowledges that food contains compounds that influence gene expression, hormone levels, inflammatory status, and cellular metabolism. These influences accumulate over time and contribute to how you age. Consider the difference between whole foods and highly processed foods. Whole foods contain arrays of compounds that work together. Fruits and vegetables provide fiber, vitamins, minerals, and thousands of phytochemicals that have various effects in the body. Many of these compounds have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. They support the body's natural defense systems. Highly processed foods, by contrast, provide concentrated calories with fewer of these supporting compounds. They often contain added sugars, refined oils, and chemical additives. They digest quickly, causing rapid spikes in blood sugar and insulin. They may promote inflammation and oxidative stress. They signal to the body that resources are abundant, but the supporting elements for repair are lacking. The pattern of eating also matters. When you eat multiple times throughout the day, your body spends more time in a fed state where insulin is elevated. Insulin is a storage hormone. It signals cells to take up glucose and to store energy as fat. When you go longer between meals, your body spends more time in a fasted state where it mobilizes stored energy and initiates cellular repair processes. This does not mean that everyone should follow a specific eating schedule. It means that the pattern of eating influences metabolic signals. Some people function well with 3 meals and no snacks. Others prefer smaller, more frequent meals. The key is awareness that constant eating keeps the body in a fed state, while periods without food allow different processes to occur. Protein intake deserves special attention as people age. Muscle tissue requires adequate protein to maintain itself. The signal for muscle protein synthesis is strongest when you consume protein in sufficient amounts, particularly after physical activity. Spreading protein intake across meals may be more effective than consuming most protein in a single meal. Hydration is another aspect of nutrition that becomes more important with age. The sensation of thirst diminishes somewhat as people get older. You may not feel thirsty even when your body needs fluid. Mild dehydration affects energy levels, cognitive function, and physical performance. It can also contribute to constipation and urinary tract issues. Regular fluid intake throughout the day, independent of thirst, helps maintain hydration. The social dimension of eating also contributes to health. Meals shared with others provide connection and enjoyment. The ritual of preparing and sharing food engages multiple senses and creates positive associations. Eating alone, particularly for older adults living alone, can become perfunctory and less satisfying. Finding ways to make meals social, even occasionally, adds a dimension that nutrition alone cannot provide. The autonomic nervous system and the pace of life. Beneath conscious awareness, your nervous system constantly monitors your environment and adjusts your internal state. This autonomic nervous system has 2 main branches. The sympathetic branch prepares you for action. It increases heart rate, diverts blood to muscles, and releases stress hormones. The parasympathetic branch promotes rest and recovery. It slows heart rate, directs blood to digestive organs, and supports repair processes. Ideally, these 2 branches work in balance. The sympathetic system activates when you need to meet a challenge. The parasympathetic system reasserts itself when the challenge passes. You return to a baseline state where recovery can occur. This rhythm of activation and recovery parallels the rhythm of exertion and rest. Problems arise when the sympathetic system remains activated for extended periods. This can happen when life presents constant demands without adequate respite. Work pressures, financial worries, family responsibilities, and health concerns all can keep the stress response engaged. The body remains in a state of readiness, diverting resources away from long-term maintenance. Chronic sympathetic activation affects multiple systems. Blood pressure remains elevated. Inflammation increases. Digestion becomes less efficient. Sleep quality suffers. Immune function changes. Over years, this pattern accelerates aspects of aging. The body spends more time in a state of wear and less time in a state of repair. Heart rate offers a window into this balance. Resting heart rate reflects the dominance of parasympathetic versus sympathetic influence. A lower resting heart rate generally indicates that the parasympathetic system is more active. The body is in a state of calm. A higher resting heart rate may indicate that the sympathetic system is more engaged. Heart rate variability provides additional information. This is the slight variation in time between consecutive heartbeats. Higher variability generally indicates greater autonomic flexibility. The nervous system can shift between states as needed. Lower variability may indicate that the system is stuck in one mode, often sympathetic dominance. Many factors influence these measures. Physical fitness lowers resting heart rate and often increases variability. Sleep quality affects both. Hydration status, alcohol consumption, and meal timing all have temporary effects. Emotional state matters as well. Feeling safe, content, and connected promotes parasympathetic activity. Feeling threatened, anxious, or lonely activates the sympathetic system. The environments you inhabit and the people you spend time with shape these nervous system responses. A home that feels calm and personal, filled with objects and spaces that have meaning, signals safety. Time spent with people you genuinely enjoy, where conversation flows easily and you feel understood, signals connection. These signals matter because they tell your nervous system that it can downregulate vigilance and allocate resources to maintenance. For many people in midlife and beyond, the demands of earlier years may have diminished. Children have grown. Careers may have stabilized or wound down. There is opportunity to shape environments and relationships in ways that support calm. This is not about eliminating all stress, but about creating conditions where the nervous system can regularly return to its restorative mode. The social fabric of health. Human beings evolved to live in groups. For most of human history, isolation was dangerous. Being alone meant being vulnerable to threats that groups could collectively manage. The nervous system still carries this legacy. It interprets isolation as a potential threat and responds by increasing vigilance. Social connection, by contrast, signals safety. When you are with people who know you and care about you, the nervous system can relax. Oxytocin, a hormone associated with bonding, promotes feelings of calm and trust. It counteracts some effects of stress hormones. It supports physiological states conducive to health. Research that follows large populations over time consistently finds that people with stronger social ties live longer and experience better health. This association holds even when controlling for other factors like income, education, and health behaviors. The quality of relationships matters more than the quantity. A few deep connections provide more benefit than many superficial ones. Marriage and long-term partnerships feature prominently in this research. People in stable, satisfying partnerships tend to have better health outcomes than those who are single, divorced, or widowed. But partnerships are not the only source of connection. Close friendships, family relationships, community involvement, and even regular interactions with neighbors all contribute. The mechanisms behind these associations are multiple. Social connection provides emotional support during difficult times, reducing the impact of stress. It encourages health-promoting behaviors, as people often exercise together, prepare meals together, and remind each other about medical care. It provides a sense of purpose and meaning, which itself appears to have biological effects. Loneliness, the subjective experience of feeling disconnected, may be more harmful than objective isolation. Some people live alone but feel connected through regular interactions and meaningful relationships. Others are surrounded by people but feel unseen and unknown. The feeling of loneliness activates stress responses similar to physical threat. For adults in later life, maintaining social connection often requires intentional effort. Work, which provided daily social contact for decades, may no longer be part of life. Children have moved away. Friends may have passed away or moved. The natural settings for meeting people diminish. Creating new connections may require joining groups, volunteering, or participating in activities where regular contact can develop into friendship. The effort is worthwhile not only for emotional reasons, but for physiological ones. The body registers connection as safety. It allocates resources accordingly. The cumulative effect of feeling safe, day after day, is a slower pace of aging. Purpose as a biological variable. Beyond social connection, there is the question of purpose. Why do you get up in the morning? What gives your days meaning? These questions might seem philosophical, but they have biological correlates. People who report having a sense of purpose tend to live longer and maintain better function as they age. Purpose can take many forms. For some, it is caring for family members. For others, it is creative work, volunteering, religious practice, or learning new things. What matters is that the activity feels meaningful, that it engages you, and that it provides a reason to remain active and engage with the world. The biological pathways through which purpose operates are not fully understood, but several possibilities exist. Purpose may motivate health behaviors. People who have reasons to stay healthy may be more likely to exercise, eat well, and seek medical care. Purpose may buffer stress. When you have a sense of meaning, daily frustrations may feel less overwhelming. Purpose may promote positive emotional states, which themselves have physiological effects. There is also evidence that purpose engages cognitive function. Pursuing meaningful activities requires planning, problem solving, and learning. These cognitive demands may help maintain neural connections and build cognitive reserve. When the brain is regularly challenged in meaningful ways, it may be better able to compensate when age-related changes occur. For many people, midlife and beyond is a time when purpose can shift. The purposes of earlier life, building a career, raising children, may have been fulfilled. New purposes emerge. Grandchildren may become a focus. Mentoring younger people may provide satisfaction. Creative pursuits that were set aside for years may be rediscovered. Community involvement may take on new importance. The key is that purpose is not passive. It requires engagement. Watching television, while relaxing, does not provide the same signal as actively participating in something meaningful. The body responds to what you do, not just to what you think. The environment as a participant in health. Your surroundings shape your health in ways that are easy to overlook. The design of your home, the neighborhood where you live, the quality of air and water, the amount of natural light you receive, all of these influence physiological processes. Consider light exposure. Natural light, particularly morning light, helps regulate circadian rhythms. It signals to the brain that it is daytime, reinforcing the internal clock. People who get adequate morning light tend to sleep better at night. They also may have better mood and more stable energy throughout the day. Artificial light, especially in the evening, can disrupt these rhythms. Blue light from screens suppresses melatonin production, making it harder to fall asleep. The constant availability of light blurs the distinction between day and night, weakening the signals that organize sleep and wakefulness. The thermal environment also matters. Temperature affects sleep quality, comfort, and even metabolic rate. Cooler temperatures at night support the natural drop in core body temperature that facilitates sleep. Exposure to cold, as discussed earlier, may have specific effects on circulation and inflammation. Heat exposure, such as in saunas, may also produce beneficial responses through the stress of high temperatures followed by cooling. Air quality has received increasing attention. Particulate matter and pollutants can enter the bloodstream through the lungs, promoting inflammation throughout the body. Indoor air can be more polluted than outdoor air, particularly in homes with poor ventilation, gas appliances, or synthetic materials. Simple measures like opening windows regularly, using exhaust fans, and incorporating plants can improve indoor air. The layout of your home affects how much you move. If essential items are spread out, you naturally walk more throughout the day. If everything is within arm's reach, you move less. Stairs, rather than elevators, provide regular challenges to cardiovascular and muscular systems. A garden that requires tending provides both movement and purpose. Natural environments may have particular benefits. Time in green spaces is associated with lower stress, better mood, and even improved immune function. The reasons are not fully understood but may involve reduced exposure to urban stressors, increased physical activity, and the psychological effects of natural beauty. Even viewing nature through a window has been shown to improve recovery from illness. The accumulation of small choices. A theme running through all of these domains is that small choices, repeated over time, accumulate into large effects. No single night of poor sleep determines your health trajectory. No single missed walk undermines your fitness. No single stressful day accelerates aging. But patterns matter. The direction in which you are trending, week after week and year after year, shapes where you end up. This is encouraging because it means that perfection is not required. You do not need to follow an ideal regimen every day. You need to maintain a direction most of the time. Occasional deviations do not reverse progress. They are simply part of being human. What matters is consistency. Consistent sleep timing reinforces circadian rhythms. Consistent movement maintains muscle and cardiovascular function. Consistent attention to recovery prevents the accumulation of stress. Consistent social connection provides ongoing support. Consistent engagement in meaningful activities maintains cognitive and emotional health. Consistency does not mean rigidity. It means that the general pattern holds. You go to bed at roughly the same time most nights. You move your body most days. You connect with people regularly. You have activities that feel meaningful. The occasional late night, missed workout, or solitary weekend does not change the overall direction. For people in midlife and beyond, the opportunity is to look at current patterns and ask whether they are serving you well. Are you moving enough? Are you sleeping consistently? Do you have recovery built into your weeks? Are you connected with people who matter? Do you have reasons to get up in the morning? These questions are not about judgment. They are about awareness. And awareness is the first step toward shaping the signals your body receives. The long view. Aging is not something that happens to you. It is something your body does in response to the conditions you create. This is not to say that genetics play no role. They do. Some people are born with advantages that make aging easier. But genetics are not destiny. They are more like a starting point. Where you go from that starting point depends on the signals your body receives over decades. The signals are not mysterious. They are the familiar elements of daily life. Movement and rest. Food and fasting. Connection and solitude. Purpose and leisure. Stress and calm. Light and dark. Warm and cool. Each of these pairs represents a rhythm, a cycle that the body expects. When the rhythm is maintained, the body functions well. When it is disrupted for long periods, the body struggles. This understanding provides a framework for thinking about health that is neither medical nor mystical. It is biological. The body responds to its environment. It adapts to demands. It allocates resources based on signals. It repairs itself when conditions allow. It maintains what it uses and lets go of what it does not. The goal, then, is not to fight aging, but to create conditions that support the body's natural processes. To move enough that the body knows it needs to remain capable of movement. To rest enough that repair can occur. To eat in ways that provide both fuel and information. To connect with others so the nervous system knows it is safe. To engage in meaningful activities so the brain remains active and the days have purpose. These are not prescriptions that require dramatic change. They are directions that can be pursued gradually. Small shifts in daily patterns accumulate over time. The body responds to what you actually do, not what you intend to do. Every step, every night of sleep, every meal, every conversation contributes to the signal. The long view of aging is that it is a process, not an event. It unfolds over decades, shaped by countless small decisions. Understanding this does not eliminate the challenges of growing older. Bodies do change. Capacities do shift. Losses do occur. But understanding does allow you to participate in the process, to influence its direction, to create conditions that support your continued flourishing. And that may be the most important insight of all. You are not a passive observer of your own aging. You are an active participant. The signals you send today will shape how you feel tomorrow, next year, and in the decades to come. Not through magic or medicine, but through the ordinary biology of a body responding to its world. The body does not age according to a fixed schedule written at birth. It ages according to the signals it receives, the demands placed upon it, the rest it is granted, the connections it maintains, and the purpose it feels. These signals accumulate slowly, quietly, over decades. They do not announce themselves dramatically. They simply shape the trajectory, day by day, year by year. The single most important takeaway from everything we have explored is this. You are not a passive witness to your own aging. You are an active participant, sending signals to your body with every choice you make. If this perspective resonates with you, if it reframes something you have been quietly wondering about, we invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. What signals have you noticed in your own life? What small shifts have made a difference for you? Your reflections become part of this library. Wisdom shared among those walking the same path. If you would like to continue exploring these ideas, we invite you to look through other videos in this collection. Each one addresses a different aspect of the aging journey, always with the same calm, evidence-based perspective. And if you have not already, consider subscribing so that new wisdom finds its way to you. This is the Longevity Library. Listen, learn, and live longer.